Wow.
It's a lot of stuff right there.
Wow. Welcome everybody. Welcome to the September 2025 edition of the Larry Dierker SABR chapter meeting. Before we begin, I'd like to have a special happy birthday shout out to Larry Dierker, who is not with us today. I hear he's on some beautiful trip somewhere.
In the Netherlands.
In the Netherlands. So Larry, if you get a chance to watch this, we're going to sing happy birthday to you real fast, all right?
How old was he?
I believe Larry is, I did not know that. I guess I should have known this, but Larry was born on this day in 1946 in Hollywood, California. Superstar from birth, Larry Dierker. So, the count of three, we're going to sing a happy birthday to Larry. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Larry. Happy birthday to you.
Very young, 79, man. Okay. So enjoying it up in Olives, right? Go. All right, we got 2 more guests popping on. Vince, the happiest man in the room, one of the happiest men in the room right now. This Milwaukee Brewers fans.
I got a Brewers cap on. I got a Brewers polo shirt on too. So yeah, it's been a pretty good day over here.
Very happy. I'm glad he's muted. I'm glad he's muted. So we have Josh and Grant. Welcome, all of you. Welcome. We got a very special program for this evening. We got a lot of stuff going on, so let's go ahead and get started.
Victory party, right?
What?
It's the victory party.
This is the victory party. We'll get to that here in a second. Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. So we're celebrating 2005. So let me introduce. We have three new members this month. Jeremy Colbion. I'm terrible at names, so I apologize, Jeremy. That's not how you say name. From Bulverde, yeah, it's past Blanco. Okay.
Where is that?
South of Bernie.
Northwest of San Antonio.
South of Bernie, north of San Antonio. Alan Favison from Bel Air. And John, I think that's a real. John from Sharpstown. John from We also have with us some very special guests tonight. First of all, let me introduce, I'll know him, Scipio Spinks. But more importantly than Scipio, Scipio. You see what I'm saying? I'm destroying. I'm terrible. And she just proved my point. More important than Scipio, Spike. Yeah. Scipio, all of you who don't know, is the Astros right-hand pitcher from 1969 to 73. No, 69 to 71 Astros. Right. 72 and 73 for the Cardinals. Yes, sir. That's right. So, welcome. And current coach. And current coach, what? UHD. Oh, wow. Oh, current coach for U of H downtown. All right. He's a Cooper. I'm sorry, I apologize. I'm at the main campus, U of H, so U of H D. All right. Wow. All right. So I gotta go see again. So if you are a special guest, we also have chapter members, and anybody else is a special guest. We have one here. What's your name, sir? Craig. Craig has been a chapter member for a long time, and it's his first meeting ever. Craig does something special that I just found out. He has a weekly baseball podcast. This is the newest one is episode 263. 263. He's been doing it since COVID. Right. And what is the special thing you're focusing on right now? with your baseball podcast.
This year, Native Texans in the Hall of Fame.
Native Texans in the Hall of Fame. So if you want to plug your podcast,
Runs, hooks and runs.
hooks and runs, everybody. So
Start with crispy.
right. So thank you. Well, anybody else? Brand new? First meeting? Yes.
Second meeting.
Second meeting for Joe. The better Joe in the room, right there. Right?
Second meeting. Now, we're about to sign for the dotted line.
Second meeting for Debbie and Hal. They're about to sign on the dotted line. You're doing your vows or say?
Oh, no.
What's that?
We're getting Astro tickets.
Astros ticket.
Second inning in a row, God would know.
Second meeting in a row in a long time for Scott Bardella. You used to come here all the time. Scott, welcome back. I think, Scott, you're going to present to us here in a couple of months or a month.
Yes. Now also have my own podcast too as well.
Yeah, Scott has his Breathing Orange Fire still or something like that.
Born on the Bayou Sports.
Born on the Bayou Sports. Sorry. If you want to know anything about the Hall of Fame, you talk to that guy right there, Scott.
What's the Hall of Fame?
Baseball Hall of Fame, Jim. Spoken like a true umpire. So you wrote a book called the Baseball Hall of Fame Index. Two of them. Yeah. So
I yielded.
last month, and those of you on Zoom, Joshua, welcome. How'd you hear about the meeting, Joshua? If you don't mind.
Yeah, pleasure. I was actually invited by Samuel. I am his book publisher.
Oh, this book publisher right here, Huntsville Independent
Huntsville
Press,
Independent Press. Yep.
right? Okay, you'll find out more about Huntsville Independent Press.
He's gonna introduce.
Oh, he's going to introduce you.
Okay.
Hey, that's the way to go.
Oh, great. You know, it's introduce the president.
Well, thank you. Checks in the mail. All right. Very quickly, I'd like to thank Bill Brown for that great presentation last month. Talking about wartime athletes, stories of sports stars who joined the U.S. team. If you haven't had a chance to look at the book, it's pretty good. It's got some great stories. So, some announcements. If you haven't heard, SABR 54 has been announced. SABR 54. SABR will be heading to Cleveland, Ohio for the 54th annual convention on July the 29th through August the 2nd at the Hilton Cleveland downtown. Okay, we always have quite a few people. What? July 29th through August 2nd. August 2026. So, what'd you say, Fred?
Carry it back with you.
Carry a bat?
Yeah, if you're walking the streets.
Of Cleveland? Okay, I have to now, to be fair, I've been to the Cleveland airport, okay? And the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is located there, right? Yeah, so there are plenty of reasons to go to Cleveland besides just for SABR and to see a Guardians game.
Can you list them?
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that's really kind of it.
States by the lake.
Oh, Scipio says a mistake by the lake, so
That was beautiful.
Yeah.
you can see how they came up with the Guardians name, I guess, if you want to check that out. Yeah.
Like I said.
Right. So, yes.
Hey, a couple months ago, and thank you for sending, you sent us all a link to Texas Monthly article about SABR,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is great. I was curious if, so it sounded like the reporter had gone to SABR in Dallas.
Right. There was a reporter who's actually a member of the DFW chapter. He's a reporter for the Texas Monthly. And he interviewed a couple of us. He interviewed myself, Mike, you were there. He interviewed, I was there. He interviewed a couple of us about our experiences and why we come to the SABR convention. So it was a nice little write-up.
I was wondering if you, Hurricane chapters got the members because of that?
I don't know.
Okay. The convention was in June. Was it the July or the August issue?
I don't know. He just sent me the link. I think it was July. I think it was July.
He didn't use any of my quotes. I can't
He
figure
didn't use my quotes. For that. All right. Brian, me.
Another reason to go to League Park, to Cleveland, is that League Park is still there. The ball field is still there with the original dimensions, and there's a museum there that's just wonderful. It's not very big. It's got a big part on Ray Chapman and a whole section on the Cleveland Industrial Leagues going back to the late 1800s.
Well, there we go. Another reason to go to Cleveland.
You can spend.
I just put a link in the chat to that too. That I don't know who just said that, but I was just saying the same thing in the chat.
Okay, good. Yeah, it's
So I expect all of you to sign up. So we're gonna have a big contingent for Houston going to Cleveland next year. So, right, you're the first one on the list.
Carrying back.
Gary.
I'm carrying a gun.
Gary. That's all right. So before we get a little out of hand, next month I have a special announcement. First of all, we have confirmed our speaker for next month, and it's Matthew, right here.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew has an excellent presentation. I don't want to give away too much, but it involves 1968 and MLK and baseball.
Yep.
So, and the Astros. So, and the Dome.
I talked to Bob Aspromonte today, and he's going to be in Washington DC for the Italian. Well, there's some kind of Italian, anyway, his older brother Ken has been involved in it for 10 or 20 years. He's got the National Italian Convention.
Yeah, we were trying to get Bob Aspromonte to come talk to us, but he's going to be in Washington, D.C. during the week of our meeting. So,
But he's still open to come.
in November,
Maybe.
hopefully, or December, November 17th or December 15th. But October, Matthew has.
Comes in December, he has to dress up like Santa.
That's right. Okay. All right. So the question I wanted to ask everybody, and maybe I'll ask this a little bit, but I was here last week to talk to the owner, and we're going to have to move the meeting. Well, I think we're going to have to move the meeting. And the reason I think we're going to have to move the meeting in October is that that's playoff baseball. Now, on Monday, October the 20th, it is the NLCS Game 6 and the ALCS Game 7. Monday, October the 20th. Anybody open to coming that night for a meeting instead of watching the NLCS?
You think the Astros are gonna be in any of
Yeah, then I haven't brought up the Astros yet. But that is what's going on Monday, October the 20th. There's no games on Thursday, October the 23rd. It's one of the only nights in October, at least during the playoff schedule, where there's no game. They have graciously allowed us to show up on Thursday, October the 23rd for the next meeting. If you would like to come, it's also steak night. So it's a big night here at the restaurant every week. They don't like us having meetings on Thursday because it is a big steak night. All right, so we have the whole room. So the question I have is everybody okay with Thursday, October the 23rd steak night where there's no games? They okay with it? Or would you rather Monday, October the 20th, NLCS Game 7, ALCS, or NLCS Game 6, ALCS Game 7? Y'all would rather sit at home and watch that? Okay, all right. So Thursday, October the 23rd, Matthew, that's the night of our meeting, steak night. Okay?
Knives will be out. So
And what?
the knives are out.
That's right.
So it's 23rd.
Thursday, October the 23rd. What's that? The knives are out, or something like that. Yeah, that's lawyer speak.
Yeah.
That being said, so the Astros are done.
Yes.
To see
Maybe.
Six more games. Are they done for the season?
No. We're still gonna get them.
Stick a fork in them, they're done? So are we hoping that, are we thinking the best we can do is the wild card at this point?
Oh, yeah, that's the only thing we got.
We got 3 against the Athletics, which have kind of been they've been playing pretty good.
Should have kept Dusty.
And then we have 3 with the Angels to end the season.
Quit.
So
Well, Joe, you never know. You know, the Guardians were 8 games behind Detroit last week, and they're 1 game out now after Detroit went 1-9 and they went 10-1.
So you never know.
And they have a 3-game series.
Yeah, Seattle has lost one game in the last, what, 20?
About 14 out of 15.
They've won 14 out of 15, so maybe it'll happen. They are playing Colorado next, so you never know. So the Mariners are playing the Rockies next, so it may just be, yeah, okay.
Then they put the doctor.
Then they play the Dodgers, so good luck with that, right?
The Dodgers.
No. All right, maybe, yeah, we might have to root for the Dodgers a little bit, grudgingly.
I'd rather not spoil.
Rather not go to the playoffs and root for the Dodgers. Okay. But we think we're done. All right. I would say that I heard somewhere that the Astros have broken a record, the most injuries in the last year or 2 years.
Most IL.
Most ILs, something like that. So to Espada's credit, he hasn't really had 100% lineup the whole year. You know, so, or 100% pitching staff the whole year. So who knows? Then again, when you can't hit a ball more than 50 feet, like the Astros can't seem to for the last 2 weeks, these things are going to happen.
One of our hitters leads the league in striking.
Who is that?
What do you think?
The Christian Walker? At least the league in strikeout?
174.
No, I'm glad y'all said that. Those of you who like to complain about Christian Walker, I have a question. Would you rather have Jose Abreu or Christian Walker?
Walker.
Yes, I hear.
Yeah.
Yuli. Would you rather have, how old is Yuli now? 43, 44?
He can still play.
Would you rather have Yuli? Christian Walker. Christian Walker. Would you rather have John Singleton or Christian Walker?
We're gonna dream of Blue Jerry.
Lou Gehrig, you know, or Christian Walker. I do have one thing. Some people are talking about we should try to get rid of Christian Walker in the offseason. What do you think? Yes, Bob.
I love
$40 million.
Who's gonna play first base? Is that Cam Smith?
So we got other people that are, they're bringing up rookies all the time. The guy who played the other day was pretty good.
Third base. All right. So, Vaughn can play everywhere. But would you rather have Vaughn playing first, like Christian?
Yes.
Put Paredes at first.
Come on, hits the ball.
Paredes first.
Yeah.
Paredes is another good choice.
Yeah, Brett, okay. So we'll see how it goes. All right.
Christian Walker can field.
Christian Walker can field.
Yeah.
Right, you could. That's right. Okay. One other thing, there is nothing set in stone yet, but Mike McCroskey, you introduced me. I like to introduce Mike as the vintage baseball guy. So are we having a vintage baseball event in November? Do you think we are?
Yes, I think we are. We hadn't heard from anybody at the range.
Okay, so if you want to play baseball, whether you're 10 or 90, all the way up to 90, it doesn't matter. You want to just play baseball with us, the 1860s rules, let us know. We're always looking for players. If we don't field the team, we'll have a couple of 12-year-olds show up, including my grandson this year who wants to play. So, if you want to play, just let us know. It's a great Saturday morning over there at
Sure, right.
our ranch in Richmond, right? So in the middle of November. So whatever the day the texting days are at.
The last weekend of October,
Maybe last
weekend in October.
Thanksgiving after Halloween,
Okay.
and it's Saturday.
All right. Real quickly, we're gonna have a fun little event real fast. We're gonna do this real fast before I get to my special guest. But Jimmy Scruggs came up with an idea, and it's a fun little exercise that we're gonna do. Hopefully, it just takes just a couple of minutes. And Jimmy, you want to come up here and let everybody know? Everybody gets involved, so even you, John. So real quickly.
Your burner's gonna.
I'm done.
All right. Well, tell John real fast.
Why don't you bring that right when it starts to speak?
Okay, to me, one of the things that baseball people have done forever is debate who should be in the Hall of Fame and who shouldn't. So tonight, I'm going to pass out index cards. You can vote for 10 people that should be in the Hall of Fame. And that includes active players. And then on the flip side, who don't you think should be in the Hall?
I got one. Who's there you want to kick out?
Who's there you want to kick out, please?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So we'll pick up the cards after our special guest presentation.
So the card color has no meaning.
So again, 10 people that should be in the Hall of Fame, even if they're currently playing.
Right.
And then
They
10,
have to be eligible.
they have to be eligible for the Hall of Fame. Okay, and then 10 people who are in the Hall of Fame that shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame. Right?
You got it.
Okay, and we'll pick it up. We'll let everybody know after our.
Well, I'll take it. We'll get them audited by Price Waterhouse.
Okay.
I'll send you an email so that we include the voting. results. Follow up for the meeting.
Okay, all right. I'll announce.
All right.
Yeah, I'll announce this later at the recap. That's quick enough. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you. Thank you.
That's a good idea.
In and out. Right.
In and out, not In and Out Burger, but yeah, In and Out. All right. Without further ado, I think I'm going to turn this over to the special guest.
Yay.
Real quickly, Josh. I've known Samuel for a long time. And he's been an active member of our chapter and made a presentation to us in October 2024 about his life as an umpire. That's all I'm going to say about our special guest. I'm going to let his Huntsville, independent press guy take care of the presentation. So without further ado, Joshua,
Okay.
I will turn it over to you.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Well, good evening. I'm going to keep this short. So my name is Josh Adams. I'm the
All
founder.
right, hold on a
And-
minute.
See it back. Oh.
Hold on, Josh. Hold on.
Oh, you're around the corner.
Josh was
Okay.
going to introduce it.
Okay.
I am.
Good.
Good
All right,
evening,
good
everyone.
night. Go
My
ahead,
name
Josh.
is Josh Adams. I am the founder and current publisher of Huntsville Independent Press, based out of North Alabama. Our work centers on publishing thoughtful, enduring books, and I am honored to be here with you tonight among so many who share a deep love for the game and its history. Now, it's my privilege to introduce the author of both Umpire Diary and most recently, Orange Crush, the neglected 1971 Houston Astros, published by HIP. His work brings a sharp research and a storyteller's touch to a season often overlooked, peeling back the trades, the decisions, and the players that defined what easily could have been a dynasty. His book asks the questions that fans have carried for decades. What if Houston had kept Joe Morgan? And what if the pieces had stayed together? My author has given the Houston Astros the serious treatment they deserve, and his book ensures that their story will not fade into the background of baseball lore. While many of you know him as a regular face at these meetings through a display, tonight he's here with you in person. Gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the keeper of forgotten seasons, Samuel Barrett.
All right, give me a second. Let me get you set up. It's yeah, I got you'll be good.
Go ahead, King.
Hold on a second.
Sorry.
We got this newfangled deal here. It's he's using Google, not PowerPoint.
Okay.
Hold on a second. Let me share your screen. Give me 1 second.
Can y'all see that online? Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so first of all, I really appreciate this opportunity. I know y'all seen me on the screen before, but it's a pleasure for me to be here in person. And I can't help but say I am even the littlest bit anxious. Not because I'm speaking in front of a crowd, but because I know I'm speaking in front of an educated crowd. I certainly hope that my work here is worthy of y'all's approval.
Yeah, speak up a little bit.
Speak up. Right. This presentation covers a part of Astros history that is not often spoken of because, well, some people say there's not much to speak about. When it comes to Astros success, it's easy for people to bring up 1980, 1986, 1998, 2005, 2017, just about every season since then. But they don't often talk about the late 60s and early 70s. Simply so, because team really just hovered around 500 at that time. It's easy for a lot of people to just say that, oh, they were still an expansion franchise, they were still growing, or, well, it just didn't happen. And it certainly did not happen. But the reasons why it didn't are certainly ones that, looking back, were controllable. We all know the core that the team had during that time. You know about Jimmy Wynn, Joe Moore, Bob Watts, Doug Rader, Larry Dierker, and Don Wilson. We know about them. Of course, we know about the guys that got away too soon. Wesley Staub, Mike Cuellar, Dave Justin, Jerry Grody, and so forth. You'll hear people sometimes ask, I wonder what the Astros lineup looks like with Rusty Staub's bat still in it. I wonder how much better that Astros rotation would have been with Mike Cuellar still in that rotation. Then had Dierker and Wilson. Imagine Cuellar in there. If Wilson didn't balls for him, imagine how well he could have done in the pitcher-friendly Astrodome. People ask these questions often. But as I was doing my research on really what could have been in these cases, the one sort of frustration I had was nobody actually dared to answer the question. And that's understandable too, because that's a hard question to answer. How do you go back in time and think, okay, plug Rusty Staub back into right field? Now how's the lineup there? Plug Mike Cuellar back in the rotation. Dave Justin, it's the bullpen. Jerry Grody catch, Sonny Jackson shortstop, whatever it is. How do you figure that out? Well, you have to start with having somebody who simply has the guts to try. Well, folks, that's right. Because I've had the guts. Well, still, I mean, I got the guts to probably be on speak about it. So. I had the guts to not only do all the research, but put it on paper. And so tonight, first time, you're going to get those answers to those questions, or at least as close as we can get. Obviously, we can't 100% know. That's one disclaimer I have. Any of the what could have beens we discussed, they cannot be 100% proven. But I am thrilled to be here tonight as we continue to celebrate the 60th anniversary of the Astrodome, to present to you the team that possibly could have been the first elite team under the dome. So I present to you Orange Crush, the neglected 1971 Houston Astros. When discussing the 1971 team, it is not a conversation to be had in a vacuum. You have to go back a little bit to see since there are 1971. The easiest way to do this is to go back and just briefly touch over the core 45. Because according to Tal Smith, from 1961 to 1973, the Astros signed and developed more major league players than any other ball club. 1961, these three up here: Bob Esparmonte, Rusty Staub, and Dave Justin. Top right corner, Joe Moore, Jimmy Wynn, Jerry Grody, and Manny Mutter. Sonny Jackson in 1963, 64, Larry Dierker, Don Wilson, Earl Miller, and Doug Rader. Now we're going to go through some other teams too. Ignore the writing on the slides for now. We're going to come back to it. Okay? We're just going to look at the players for now. 1965, Mike Cuellar and Bob Watson. Tom Griffin in 1966. 1967, Sandy Alomar, John Mayberry, and Cesar Cedeno. Ken Force, Cesar Geronimo, Johnny Edwards in 1968. Three pitchers, 69, Jack Billingham, Gerald Richard, and Mike Marshall. So by 1970, you're sort of set. Well, you should be. As we go back to 1965, and I don't need to cover the opening of the Astrodome. You've heard it all yet. But what we will cover is the first domino to really fall in the story. The ownership fallout between Judge Wayne Hopkins and Artie Bob Smith. Some of y'all may have heard this before. But during the season, they essentially figured out, because Hopkins was getting all the credit for the Astrodome, because he's the one whose imagination created it. Artie Bob Smith, who actually held the majority share, he funded the dome. Hopkins would be able to come up with it. But he did. 10 days early on August 2nd, Hopkins bought out Bob Smith, and Bob Smith later said that was the biggest regret of his life, training the Astros. Hopkins wasted no more time making the organization had some part in signing a lot of these guys. And then we're going to talk about it. Because he had a small ball vision. So the ball, contact hitting, running, fielding, and pitching. That's exactly what they got. Fired Paul Richards because Hopkins wanted more control over the baseball side. And Richards wasn't given it. Richards was himself a cocky guy as well. So decided to let Richards go. And then manager Lumen Harris was fired by an assistant over the phone. So now you have the looming hole of a new general manager. Well, they didn't just fill it in the singular way that most of the time you would. They decided to fill it with 3 people. Grady had down on the left in the far top left corner right there. He was actually given the job as being the field manager too to replace Harris because he had turned down the job from the White Sox the same offseason because he had goals at Houston. Awarded that by giving him the job. Plus, he had won 2 pennants with the AAA Oklahoma City club. Tal Smith, there in the middle, and HB Spec Richardson, there on the right. Yeah, we don't get into that. 1966, there's a lot to think positively about. AstroTurf was coming in, which gave the team a new home field advantage. That baseball spin off of it would be differently than ever before in baseball history. Tom Griffith, of course, was signed. He didn't come up till 69, but he was signed at this point. Sonny Jackson was runner-up for Rookie of the Year honors that year, just as Joe Morgan was the prior year in 65. The problem is both of them finished runner-up to 2 players in bigger markets, even though their stats were less. And this is the 1960s, still a point where civil rights are still kind of an issue. And so when you have 2 white players defeat 2 black players for Rookie of the Year, it does kind of make you want to ask questions. Considering both the black players' stats were better. Morgan's in 65 and Jackson's in 66. But they both the answer to that question. And this development was really paying off. In May, they were in 2nd place for most of the month. In June, they were in 3rd place a lot in the National League. This is before divisions, so it was just the National League. The Astros were doing really well. And so there was a lot to feel optimistic about. They've just improved themselves into world class.
Laura, we had a internet snafu here, so let me slideshow back up for you guys.
What was their record in 1966?
66, 70, 92. First time the team achieved 70 wins. That helps work.
It's good. That should be good.
But the big story in 1967, here's another domino to fall, is it was ultimately decided that triumvirate of three people in the general management role, it just wasn't working. 2-1 votes, people disagreeing. It just wasn't going to last long term. So they had to pick somebody. Well, they did pick somebody. Hofheinz did pick somebody, but he picked the one person, not necessarily off of merit, but he picked the one person that, despite doctors telling Hofheinz, hey, don't eat this, don't eat that, the one guy who would go out in the middle of the night and get it. The one guy who would do anything for Hofheinz. Just as Paul Richards had his cronies, well, Spec Richardson became Hofheinz's crony. And so he easily got the job. Because I actually asked Hal Smith one time, I said, when Spec Richardson was given the job of general manager, did you think it should have been you? And his answer was, well, no. Nobody had any doubt because we all knew that Hofheinz wanted Spec Richardson because of Big Red. Reasonable answer. I mean, it's hard to argue with that. Certainly understand that. So obviously, if you know, this one decision, this one right here, proved to be the singular decision that hurt the potential of what could have been the Orange Crush Astros more than anything else. Everything else from here on was a result, some way or another, of this. So you go into 1968, and this is a pretty eventful season. Obviously, worldly issues intersecting with baseball in a way that really catch people. You're going to give more detail on that next month, so I will leave that to him. But how this pertains to the Astros, the biggest story was the manager. Brady had been the field manager for a couple of years now, and wasn't necessarily the best. Some say he had a temper issue, but one of those people said that.
Yeah. So you're stupid.
That's the only issue was, as bad as people thought Brady had was, they had no idea what was coming. Because a guy who had just been fired from Pittsburgh, Harry the Hat Walker, had been hired by the Astros as a organizational hitting instructor, whatever the heck that is. And so at that point, it kind of became when the Astros were on a slump on the road in June of 1968. They replaced Haddon and gave the title to Harry Walker. Harry Walker, he had his credentials, won a batting title, and real good hitting instructor for some people. But you have to wonder, why is it that the year after he wins a batting title, he's traded? You don't trade a batting title when that's it. Well, the Astros clubhouse would soon find that out. Because he spent the next 3-4 seasons, I forget exactly how many, essentially forcing his hitting style on every hitter, the pop and glide, hit off the front foot, no power. And so, forced that on everybody, even his bat model that didn't have a knob on it. And anybody who didn't, well, it didn't end very well for them. Berated them to no end. Especially, their skin was darker than these. Especially, they happened to be Black, African American, or at least non-white. So the Astros clubhouse continued to go downhill from there. So you see at this point, it started with the top of the ownership in 65, and then general management in 67, now beginning in 1968, now it's gotten into the clubhouse. You see how the development of the team was coming up, but then the rest of the organization was starting to push down a little bit. In 1968, of course, that being a beautiful year for the Astros, they hosted the All-Star game. But other than that, really just So going into 1969, there was reason to feel optimistic. New divisions, meaning that you only had to compete against half the league instead of the entire league, and expansion, meaning that the talent was thinned all across the league. Well, there certainly was a talent thinning. When Spec Richardson trades away Dave Justy, Bob Esper, Mike Brown, and Rusty Staub, yeah, there was a talent thinning there. Not to the Astros' favor. And so, no surprise, the Astros go to San Diego for the Padres' first series ever, get swept, score 1 run the entire series in the first inning.
That's very familiar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not very familiar. Oh, and so in April of 1969, that really just kind of started downhill from there. They went 4-20 in the month. The 20th loss, Jim Maloney no-hit the Astros, and Reds won 10-0. Next day, May 1st, Don Wilson, he went into Carlson Field that day really angry. He was angry anyway, especially that day on that game. And he no-hit the Reds. And so soon after that, that started a 10-game winning streak for the Astros in May, another one in June. The Astros really began to win a lot. I heard Larry Dierker say one time, if you take out April and September, the Astros might have been the best team in baseball in 1960. And I haven't taken the time to look at that, but it might be true. And the Astros did get a couple of good guys in return for some of those trades. Veteran catcher Johnny Evans, good guy. Jack Billingham, good, fairly young veteran. Other than that, you really didn't get too much in return that was going to warrant a ball club that you could really build off. And they got some more veteran presence in Jim Bouton and Tommy Davis. But the team finished up 81-81. This was the postseason, particularly after a game in Atlanta. Larry Dierker versus Phil Negro goes 13 innings. Dierker had a no-hitter almost to 9. They each went at least 11 innings. Phil Negro went 11 scoreless. Larry Dierker went 13 scoreless. Astros scored 2 in the top half of the 13th. And Larry Dierker's thinking, great, this is my 20th win. Until the bullpen comes in the bottom half and gives up 3 runs. Astros lose. And that pretty well put the damper on the Astros' pennant hopes if they won it. But going into 1970, the city of Houston now felt like they had a winner. There were new expectations. And they had some high points. They did finish the season with an 8-game winning streak in September. But by then it's kind of too late. But I mean, look at a lot of these guys right here. Cesar Cedeno and Kim Force were each caught up that year. Cedeno in June, Force in September. You already had Watson, who had become a full-time first baseman after Joe Pepitone was arrested and then traded to Bills. Joe Pepitone's whole other story. We're not getting into that. Okay. Pelican told me that Pepitone was walking around the Astrodome clubhouse with a marijuana cigarette every day. Joe Morgan, Doug Rader, Jimmy Wynn, Daniel, Dierker, Wilson. You have a big core already. Then, of course, if you add in those guys who were already traded, Staub, Cuellar, Justin.
But Staub was traded for Don Clendenin. Don Clendenin refused to come to Houston because Walker was a racist. Louis Kuhn stood up and instead of rescinding the trade, he forced the Astros to accept some other players from Montreal. And that's where they got Jack Billingham and Jesus Salute. That's what they settled for. Don Clendenin, of course, went to the New York Mets and got them to win the World Series. So it wasn't, everybody really poo-poos that Staub trade, but, it could have turned out well if Harry Walker hadn't been in there. But you didn't have Staub and Billingham on the same team ever because they were traded.
Right. And we're going to get into that when it comes to the whole could have been, because that kind of gets complicated. So I want to go and try to get into 1971 so we can get into that part. Because
70, 69. Let's read that. Jim Bouton was on that team. Did he have much of an impact? I guess he was he came back with knuckleball.
Yeah, had to snuff the ball. He did start a game that I think he ended up losing it, but he was felt good about it because he felt like knuckleball works in the National League, and he was helping the team out. And of course, he's been with the Yankees, gave them some veteran presence. And so, the last couple of months of ball 4, that does come to the Astros. And so 1971.
Did you just say, Senator?
I was answering this question about Jim Bell.
Yeah, he wrote about
Yeah.
Yes, then it really.
Yep, it's most of September. So 1971, well, there's a good bit of stuff that's memorable about this season that maybe some people don't really think about. Joe Morgan held out for more money. And if you remember 1968, Rusty Staub held out for more money after that season. We know he was traded after that season. So, you know, Spec Richardson didn't like guys who held out. Of course, no general manager. But there was still optimism going into the season. The team's media day had the theme of wait till this year. Because they felt like, particularly Doug Rader and Johnny Oaks, they felt like we can compete with the Reds and the Dodgers to win the division. And to start off, they did. They had a fast start. They took 2 or 3 from the Dodgers in the Astrodome, and then the Cubs came in. The Astros took 3 or 4. By the end of the road trip, the Astros were beginning to get the nickname of Orange Crush for 2 reasons. One, because the team had a fast start. Now they were going on the road, and people felt optimistic. The second reason was the Astros became the first team in MLB history to use the color orange as their primary accent. Whereas before, the shooting star look had orange lettering, an orange streak, and blue star. Now they flipped the colors, and it became predominantly orange. This provided a unique look for the Astros that no team had ever had before. With Navy, that can be any team. That could be the Braves. That could be the Angels of that time. That could be the Yankees. That could be the Twins. Nobody had orange this way. And so the Astros made some uniform history in this way. And I never seen this covered until I looked at it. And so you see here some details about that, about the uniform history the Astros made. And I want you to look at this picture of Larry Dierker, because this gives us a good opportunity to discuss a few policies the organization had that, you know, along with the trades, kind of made the team feel less than good. If you look at Dierker's lower leg here, you see the star, and you see the even cut of the stirrups and the white center to the side. Spec Richardson, because apparently he had nothing else to do, decided that he wanted all the players to show that star. He required everybody to show that star. I heard, I think Johnny Edwards said he had to, they can at least show the whites. And I heard Jerry Royce in an interview say he had to show the star. Now, me personally, I like this look. I think if you have a decoration on the sock, you should show it. But a lot of players, they didn't like it because they felt like this is what they're concerned about. I mean, you just traded away half our core, and now this is what your mind is on. And so this kind of worked until Cesar Cedeno just refused. He went and doctored all his socks. Spec Richardson tried to send Whitey Diskin to the clubhouse and replace all the socks with ones that hadn't been doctored. But Cedeno didn't care. He did it anyway. So eventually Richardson decided, okay, fine. But a couple other policies too, because this kind of goes in well with it. When I was able to speak to Tom Griffin, he told me that one of the things he didn't like was the team's travel arrangements. Dodgers had a private plane, and most other teams at least chartered a plane. Whereas the Astros would often fly commercial. Sitting in the terminal, having to wait. And this, particularly when I was talking to Tom Griffin about 1971, I said, well, you were already trying to stay with the big league club in 71 anyway. You didn't want to feel like you were back in AAA when you did get to the big leagues. And so, nobody really liked that either. And then you mentioned ball 4. Glad you did, because in ball 4, there's a paragraph about that big, in which Bowden says the Astros do not give paychecks to their players. Instead, Hopkins would take all the money, put it in his bank account, and the Astros had to write checks for cash to get that money. This did 2 things. It forced the players to bank at the Judge's bank, and it allowed Hopkins to collect interest off the players' money. That's not flying in today's HR. It's not. So that just gives us an opportunity to discuss those. So again, here, we'll just go ahead and start again with Larry Dierker, because he was the big story of the season for the Astros in the first half of the season. Through the first week of June, he had a 10-1 record with a 1.59 ERA. Now, we all know how well Biden won, how well Tom Seaver, Ferguson, Jenkins did. Those numbers topped all 3 of them at that time. And Bada Blue started the All-Star game. in Detroit that year. Tom Seaver won the ERA title. Fergie Jenkins won the wins title and Cy Young Award. On that pace, had it been able to continue without Dierker's elbow trouble, because then he began to get some elbow trouble. Didn't really think much about it until a game on July 7th, Candlestick Park. Cold, windy, maybe a little rainy, and it really started hurting him. So he managed to get through the 5 innings, needed to qualify for the win. And then after that, he really only pitched a couple more times. He didn't win it anymore after that. He ended up winning only 12 games. But we can only imagine how good he would have been. So I decided to take those numbers, 10-1, 1.59 ERA. Had he been able to continue that for the whole season, that would have resulted in at least 24 wins, meaning 25 wins, because pitching coach Jim Owens projected that Dierker would win 25 games. So that's probably a reasonable bet. And then that 1.59 ERA, had he been able to stick with that, even if it goes up a little bit, both of those, 25 wins and 1.59 ERA, both still be Astros single season records today. And also something else I found interesting, you see worn out Spikes here. After a game in the Dome against the Giants that he won, the news stories were writing about Cobbler's best friend beats Giants or something like that, because he was wearing the same shoes. If you look here, you can see how kind of, there's like really a hole right there in the toe. He was wearing the same shoes, but he was winning. He didn't want to change them while he was winning. So he kept that up. Dierker was kind of projected to start the All-Star game for the National League, but Don Wilson ended up having to take his place, and Wilson pitched a real good innings. But then when you get into August for the Astros, in addition to Dierker's injury, Norm Miller broke his wrist in a collision which ended the season. Doug Rader tweaked his shoulder back in May, and he had surgery on it in September. He tweaked it again in July, then he had surgery in September. But there were still some good parts of the season, particularly in September. August was the worst month of the season for the Astros. September was the best. The first 2 triple plays in franchise history were both turned this year. One in July, one in September. September 2nd, Cesar Cedeno hit an inside the park grand slam. A few days after that, the one thing that everybody seems to want to talk about when it comes to 1971 Astros, the big league debut of J.R. Richard. Struck out 15 Giants, including Willie Mays 3 times and Jim Ray Hart twice. Willie Mays said he would never play again against. In San Francisco. That's right, in San Francisco. It was the second game of a doubleheader. And so you really had solid seasons from several guys. Bob Watson, he had a couple weeks he had to go on military leave. He was solid. Joe Morgan was solid. Don Wilson had a career year. Forrest had his first full season in the big leagues, really became a starter. And of course, Cesar Cedeno. Cesar Cedeno, from June on, was the Cedeno that we all know about. April and May, he really started to slump. So we can imagine if April and May he'd have been able to perform the same he did June on, maybe he could have been the same as he was in tour or Frank.
I was in St. Louis in '74. And I saw one of the greatest catches I've ever seen in my life by Cesar. I mean, running at a full sprint, not only caught the ball, but went into the wall. I mean, it was like, even, St. Louis has good fans. Everybody was delighted. It was like the most incredible catch.
He did that 10 times a year.
That's what he did.
But I didn't live here, okay?
Let's see. Bring back on like Cesar Cedeno would do that ball. Yeah, he was really there.
I mean, I think Mr. Crosby, you told me one time, there were times where let's see, a guy would get he would get like a base hit in the outfield. Come here and do this, by the time he gets up, he's never second. So that's kind of where he was.
He has acceleration, the speed.
And this is his first full season in the big league, so you got to see it. The team ended up finishing with a 79-83 record, 11 games out of first place. And they set a record for most one-run games played. They went 32 and 43 during those games. If you simply flip that record, the Astros tied the Giants for first place, assuming none of those losses turn wins or against the Giants against the Astros win the division. So let's get ready to fasten our seatbelts and let's see what really could happen. Before I do so, I want to give these disclaimers because you have to be willing to expand this a little bit. Number one, as I said in the beginning, there is no 100% way to know what could happen in any of these cases.
Not even with AI now.
I didn't think try that, but AI gets some mistakes more often than you think.
There you go.
So, you know. Number two, there's more than one way it's going to catch. This is through my research. What I found probably would have been the most likely ways things could have happened. But it doesn't mean it's necessarily how it would have, because we just can't know. This is for entertainment, for fun. That's what we're here. Number three, if anybody accused me of being biased toward the Astros, well, duh. That's the entire point of writing the book in the first place. If I wasn't an Astros fan, it wouldn't exist. So, most of this, I'm just kind of trying to fly through a little bit, but there is one part I want to talk about, and this is all dependent on whether Spec Richardson is not the general manager. Paul Richards or Tal Smith are probably the two most likely options as far as who becomes general manager when. I'll leave that in the book, but I'm not going to expand on it right now, just because I think regardless to who you have, you probably get similar results. But I want to talk about a couple of things that are going to raise the most red flags, and the rest of it's pretty self-explanatory. When it comes to the catcher position, you had Johnny Edwards, Jack Hyatt, and Larry Howard. Some writers were saying this was possibly the best catching trio the Astros had ever had. I mentioned Jerry Grody. He was traded after the 1965 season, one of only a couple of mistakes that Paul Richards actually made. And we all know how good Jerry Grody was in New York with the Mets. And so the Astros having Jerry Grody and acquiring Johnny Edwards, having both those catchers on the same roster seems appealing, but it's very likely, well, it's a heck of a lot more likely than you think. Because Johnny Edwards was with the Cardinals in 1968, and he was traded after the season to the Astros. But in reality, the deal was already structured before the 1968 World Series, which the Cardinals were in. So for whatever reason, the Cardinals were looking to get rid of Edwards, apparently. Because otherwise, why are they trying to deal him before the World Series even begins? And so if you have a different general manager that's going to value their young guy, Jerry Grody, and think about getting a veteran to help out with pennant races and such, which Johnny Edwards had experience with, that's an easy acquisition to get both of them. And then you have a platoon partner because Jerry Grody was a righty hitter, Johnny Edwards was a lefty hitter. You got a mentor for Grody if you need that. It is more likely than it seems at first. And then, of course, Bob Watson, he could be the emergency catcher. Some injuries really limited him to first base at this point, so didn't have as good of an arm. And then Larry Howard can be good for your minor leagues. But then you get to a problem that we have to rectify. Because in the same trade that Johnny Edwards came to the Astros from, the Astros got rid of Dave Justin. Obviously, you want Dave Justin on the team too, and this is where you have to use this thing, because at first you think, well, you can't have both of them on the same team, so we trade for each other. But who made that trade? Spec. We already said he should be the general manager anyway. So now you've blown the entire situation over. Now we can use this thing a little. Do our research, and we think about, well, what could have happened in this case? Well, with Justy, it just kind of went haywire because Justy was traded to the Cardinals from the Astros. A couple of days after that, he was traded to the Padres from the Cardinals, who then traded him back to St. Louis. Cardinals apparently didn't want him either. Neither did the Padres. So the Padres wanted him a little bit, but apparently not enough. Because they traded him back to the Cardinals. Then they obviously didn't want him that much because season and a half later they traded him to the Pirates. So, it goes deeper than that. The point is it's confusing, and that just lets you know how inept Spec Richardson was. So this trade can be definitely completely reworked if you have a different general manager like Richards or Tal Smith. And so what does that trade look like? Well, it's when you have to use this and do a little bit of research. We know Johnny Edwards is going to come from St. Louis to Houston.
Jim McCarter.
I
That's
figured
why they traded.
trade. That was, well, right, yeah, exactly.
Carper.
Exactly. And if the Cardinals feel like this, or maybe quite, if they feel like it's not even, they can throw in Ron Davis, who's an Astros outfielder. But before he went to St. Louis. From Houston, you can give Hal Gilson back to the Cardinals. He'd been a Cardinal before. Include a couple of prospects and some cash. Who the prospects are, it really doesn't move. Thank you. But this is not the only time that this happens. As you mentioned earlier, the same thing comes up when you have Rusty Staub and Zach Bellingham. Well, this one pans out a little bit differently because in the midst of all that drama that you were speaking about earlier, the Astros and the Expos were actually in communication about a completely separate deal that sent Leo Marintetti and Howie Reed from Houston to Montreal. And so at this point, we know Rusty Staub's going to stay in Houston because different general manager's not saying. And so at this point, why not just have these guys go to Montreal and Jake Bellingham? It just fits in perfectly. You're not creating any big butterfly effects. And again, it's likely that it could have happened because of their communication anyways. And so now, you guys still got Bellingham in Houston because they were looking for young guys. Howie Reed, veteran, Montreal can have. Leo Marintetti, young guy they can have. To work out well. From here, it's simple. First base, Bob Watson, John Mayberry. Nate Colbert could have been around too. So he was let go in the expansion draft in 1968 San Diego. When it comes to shortstop, let's get into the starting pitch side. Because Roger Metzger, who was the shortstop in 71, he was acquired by the Astros essentially in exchange for Joe Capitone, a couple separate trades. Capitone was acquired for Kurt Weffring, who was then acquired from Mike Cuellar. Obviously, Mike Cuellar's the better option there. So if you keep in Cuellar, you don't have Roger Metzger. And of course, with Dennis Menke, well, that gets into, remember that Rookie of the Year runner-up, Sonny Jackson, and how his playing style fit in with the Astrodome better than Dennis Menke's. Sure, Dennis Menke had better numbers in Houston, but if you look at Sonny Jackson's rookie season in 1966, 292 batting average, 49 stolen bases, and 1967 he has a sophomore slump, and they just trade him after that. If you take your time, let him develop as an Astro with Joe Morganton, then you're set there. It's probably a stretch to say that Jackson would become a Hall of Famer with Morgan, but I think it's definitely fair to say that the development could have been very similar. Two guys, Morgan and Jackson, whichever order you want, at the top of the order, that really helps out an Astros lineup that's coming up with Wynn, Cedeno, Staub, Watson, Mater. It really helps out there. So, again, this kind of just takes care of itself if you have a different general manager and keeps your young prospects, your homegrown guys. Mentioned Joe Morgan, second base. Sandy Alomar was acquired by the Astros at one point. Don't know how many of y'all knew that, but he was acquired along with Eddie Matthews. But Alomar was one of two players acquired in one offseason and traded away in the same offseason. In this case, being the 66-67 offseason. So the Astros maintain him. You have one of the best insurance policies on the team, other than a catcher.
That's not Sandy Alomar Jr. though. That's a
Senior, yes. Manny Mota was another player. You had a presentation last year where you mentioned Manny Mota as one of the game's best pitchers.
He was had the record for pitchers in the state.
Exactly. 1962, 1963. This is one of the other mistakes Paul Richards actually made. But obviously became one of the most reliable hitters and pitchers of all time. The Astros hold on to him. We've got more depth in the outfield for you. Third base, Doug Rader. Bob asked for money too. I say him because he was a fan favorite. It's always good to have a guy rally around in the city and with promotions.
The women liked it. That's right.
That's true.
Come running the door. So that's the initial VA. No,
So in the outfield, this is pretty well already said. We already talked about Rusty Staub. Cesar Cedeno in center field pushes Jimmy Wynn to left. Jimmy Wynn actually didn't have a problem going to left field. Some people say he did. In his autobiography, he said he was okay with it as long as he was playing. Because you remember, he came up with the Colt 45 as a shortstop and then moved to the center field. So now they just moved him to left field.
He was up.
His bat's slow. Yeah. And then on the bench, we already talked about Manny Mota. Cesar Geronimo likely could have been the late defensive replacement, probably for Rusty Staub when you have, after Staub's last at bat, After, if he gets on base, you put in Geronimo to pinch run for him, keep him in the rest of the game. Staub gets out, you put Geronimo in the outfield, finish up your game up. Manny Mota and Norm Miller. Miller, definitely a clubhouse character. Always good to have those two, along with Doug Rader and George Culver, probably pitcher. They can serve those roles and have further bench depth too. Norm Miller liked to call himself a secret weapon, his jacket on like a cape. He painted these lightning bolts on his shoes too. And so management told him not to do that anymore either, and had the bat boy wipe it off with the shoe polish. They had leather shoes back. Pitcher rotation, this is pretty well already said too. Talks about Dierker, Wilson, Kim Force, and Tom Griffin. Griffin, of course, having one of his best seasons of his rookie season. Kim Force coming up to Mike Cuellar, Ryan Dressett, improvement. Now, this is given a 5-man rotation. They could have used 4. I figured it's the safest thing. Let's assume 5. They could have used 4 maybe at the time. 5-man rotation was starting from the rounds. So I figured we can accommodate for both. Bullpen's covered too. The bullpen actually tended to be a weakness for the Astros during this time period, but in 1971, it was a strength. George Culver had his best season as an Astro in 71. Jim Ray won 10 games. Fred Lanning had 2.12 ERA. Jay Bellingham, Larry Dierker said he felt like he could have been a better reliever, possibly one of the best setup guys in the league. And of course, if you got Dave Justy, you probably have Justy and Gladdy battling it out and training for the closer spot. And then Bellingham sets up both of them. Now, the order of the rotation, lineup, bullpen isn't as important as the players themselves. So, it can be established however the manager decides. Coaching staff, this is pretty simple too. Buddy Hampton, Salter Parker, Hub Kittle, and Jim Owens. Mel McGaha, he left after 1970. Well liked guy. Perhaps he could have stuck around. But he decided to go back home to Shreveport, Louisiana. If you've got a team on the verge of pennant, maybe he sticks around. And then the manager. We've already scratched out Harry Walker. We've already scratched out Grady Hatton. Only problem with Lumen Harris is he was a Richards yes man. So just in case you have Tal Smith as general manager, you probably don't have Harris too. And then so 3 guys mainly popped up in my research. One of them I forgot to put here actually. Hub Kittle, a guy who was very well liked. And so just only problem was I read somewhere he wasn't interested in managing. And so that brings us down to Bob Lillis, who became an Astros manager. He was a scout for the Astros in 1971. And then Mel McGaha, who we already mentioned. If McGaha doesn't really feel incentivized to stay with the Astros if the team's in a pennant contention mode, maybe if they give him the manager job, he'll stick around then too. So I was thinking between Mel McGaha and Bob Lillis. Lillis might have been a teeny bit too young, unless they wanted to go the Cincinnati Reds, Sparky Anderson route and get somebody. Otherwise, Mel McGaha is probably a really good option. Again, this is one of those cases where goal number 2 comes in, more than one way to spend cap. I think regardless, we can all agree, if you don't have Walker, you don't have Hatton, you're probably off. So, this is what your lineup looks like. This is what your team looks like. Given all of this, but now we have to answer the big question of how the team actually fares. This is called the Pythagorean win-loss rate. I'm not going to go too deep into the numbers. I'm just going to say what they all are. Take the amount of runs scored, the exponent of 2. Sometimes you see the exponent of 1.83, which gets you a more accurate result. All over, runs scored to the power of 2 plus runs allowed to the power of 2. I'm not going to go over how I got these numbers because that would just take too long. But they're in the book. They're absolutely in here. The numbers that are unaltered, that were guys with the Astros, unaltered guys that were traded away too early, and then guys whose numbers we needed to alter a little bit for different circumstances. Both guys were with the team, and we get a total of 696 runs scored. Pitching staff, same grid pattern, total of 5.46 runs. You plug that into the formula. 696 to the power of 1.83 over 696 to the power of 1.83 plus 523 to the power of 1.83. Gives you a 667 winning percentage. But before we get to the win-loss record, we have to remember that 79-83 record that the Astros ended with. That was actually 4 games under the team's Pythagorean win-loss record as it actually was in 1971, which was 83 and 79. So we're going to take the win-loss record it spits out for us, decrease it by 4 games, because that's how they did in the season, which gives us a projected record for the 1971 Orange Crush Houston Astros of 98-64.
That's great.
Now, this means the Astros won the division. They probably send more guys to the All-Star game. Let's discuss a little bit more. They face the Pittsburgh Pirates in the National Championship Series. Yay! How does the team fare in the postseason? Well, you're just gonna have to read about it. There's definitely one parts of the books that I really enjoyed it. And so there's some parts about it. And there's some sources.
Oh my God, video. Could I go back a little bit about what you said about it, comparing like Don Wilson, no hitter, like that's something else. Maloney threw the one, and well, what happened is that Jamie Maloney threw the no hitter. They're spun with an 8-0 lead.
Right.
Don called the dugouts, Cincinnati. We're in Houston in the dome, and he grabbed me and said, "Come over here, listen to this." He said, "I'm throwing a no hitter tomorrow, and I'm hitting big."
Sounds like.
We go, I'm in Cincinnati. That's the first time I've ever seen Don Wilson. He wasn't mad, he was irate. And he walking in the dugout, in the clubhouse, just sweat pouring off of us. And we're looking like, oh, Mr. Don. I said, Don, other than Bob Gibson, that might have been the meanest man in baseball. I'm serious. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes out to the field and Cincinnati's taking BP. Bench was nowhere taking BP. He was in the clubhouse. Don Wilson goes to no hitter and hits bench right in his side. Those big wings that give him right there. Doug Rader came up with the name Orange Crush. You know, he kept looking at, they got the color, like you said. So he kept calling us Orange Crush. We're knee high. We're the Orange Crush. That's what he meant to say. We're both from Chicago, so we have. But what is this saying about? Very, very right on. Everything was so good.
There's a similar story, 1971, second game of the season, Don Wilson lost that game. Bill Butler hit his first home run of him. He said, if Don Wilson's one of the best pitchers in baseball, I'm gonna do pretty well. And Joe Morgan saw the way Wilson was looking at that newspaper and knew he was in trouble. Next time they go to LA, Wilson says, come out the field, meet me. And Butler was nowhere to be seen. So in the middle of the game, Wilson's heading out to the bullpen in Dodger Stadium. Butler's playing right field, just takes off. They have to stop the game, trying to get him to stop chasing after it.
That day that JR threw the 15, struck out the 13, I pitched the first game of the game. And Willie Mays walked up to us, because me and JR were like, wow, here comes Willie Mays. So he got like, hey, baby, why don't y'all, hey, don't none of you brothers hit me? Willie Mays, talking like that. I just laughed, but I remember that game.
I actually left this footage of the 1971 Astros play. I got this from Major League Baseball. I got your cool shit. As I let this footage play, I'll just give you some of my closing thoughts. This project was truly something fun to put together. A lot of detail, as you can see, and there's a lot that I've left out. But I really think for those of you who are around in this time period, that it's gonna bring back some memories for you. For those of you who weren't around, I think it's going to allow you to learn a lot. I really think you're gonna enjoy it. It goes month by month. And then of course there's the what could have been chapter at the end, and the postseason simulation. I'm very proud of how the cover turned out with the orange crush on the cover, semicolon as the jersey. And so I'm really proud of this, and I hope that it warrants y'all's approval as well. Got it up here for $20 even, all paperbacks. I'm sorry I don't have the hardcovers there. It just was quicker to print paperback. And so I really appreciate y'all once again having me here. This has been a big climax of this entire process, and I'm deeply grateful. Thank you.
They loved to sing as a Astros in question. I was sitting in the dugout, and when Evans would come up, the manager, which was Harry,
Spinks, go get loose. So I grabbed my glove to run down to the club, to the bullpen. He said, no, put your glove down. If ever it's on, you're running for me.
Does anybody have any questions for Samuel Barrett?
I wanted to kind of direct with Scipio and thanks. These trades, that we wonder about them, whether they're right and all that stuff. But hidden in the background, was there somebody that was a clubhouse problem that was the cause of some of these trades that we don't even know? Anybody say, well, yeah, he was a great hitter, but or anybody like that in these trades?
Not really. Not really with the Astros. Everybody, he has some comments, he has some wild people.
Yeah.
But everybody, Doug Rader might have been the worst of all.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
But you're not gonna trade Doug Rader because of advantage.
Right.
I can tell you some things Doug Rader did. Just can't tell you.
Later, North Culver, they all said everybody just got along great in the clubhouse. Some of it was they all felt like united against Harry,
Yeah.
but they still got along.
Yeah.
So I don't think so.
Okay.
No, this was wild.
I just had a couple of comments. Norm Miller said his claim to fame was hitting a high school home run off Larry Dierker at the All-Star game. But he also had a proposition he used to push on the air about transplanting Tom Griffin's right arm to the back, middle of his back, so he could come better over it on the overhand curveball.
That's a great idea.
I haven't heard
This should see.
And Staub, he got traded, I think, because he came in as the golden boy, and the fans got mad at him because he kind of got run out of town. And had a great career after that, but he'd miss balls in the outfield, get hit by batted balls, and the people, they built him up so much he couldn't live up to what the fans expected. That's one of the reasons he had a trade. And I like what you did on your lineup. I had Sonny Jackson batting ahead of Bill Morgan.
The reason I did that is
Because
because
that used to irritate me, because Morgan, they always batted him first. He got on base 45% of the time, 40 to 45. Jackson, the left-handed hitter, hit the other way, hit a ground ball to shortstop, he get beat out, and then forced Morgan at second. I must have seen that 4 or 5 dozen times.
yeah, because anytime I did a computer simulation with Morgan and Jackson, that's always what happens. So that's why I was thinking.
You did good on that.
But
Tony?
Alphonse was running into financial problems. And that's why he was so cheap a player.
That's
But, was there any evidence of that in your study of the Astros in 71? What happened? Where did he lose those? Was the Astro more
Well, that-
expensive than he thought?
that could explain in part why he did what he did with players' paychecks to get that interest. And then I know I have a more in-depth answer for you. I'm just trolling with
Well, I would think he'd be heavily leveraged.
Yeah.
If Mike Smith didn't think he could come up with $7.5 million, and he did at the last minute.
Well, that's a lot. He borrowed a lot of that money, and so he had to pay it back. I mean, yeah, we all know how big this credit card debt is today. He got himself through that place.
I believe I read somewhere that, after the bloom was off the bush, as far as the novelty to go see, that attendance just kept going down, down, down.
That's what I was looking for. The attendance went down after
Some of the videos you showed had, had people at the lower level, but everything else is empty.
Yeah, because I think Larry Dierker said in his first book that there were even rats underneath the
Rats, they were killing the cats sitting around there. Go on the clubhouse, had to go down under the stadium, and we used to carry fungo bats going to the field. The rat, I mean, you can see them. They weren't no little bitty eyes, big ass eyes. They were that's how you notice how funny.
That's why they had you there.
Although I would say Scott wasn't told in a funny story on the other end. My dad told a story about how they had nickel beer night one night. And they just flogged out $1 and had 20 beers. And one of the guys he was with threw all his beer on the stop. Apparently they were invited to dinner for that.
Solidly.
I'm not good at Jingle beer was so crazy, they doubled the price the next time.
Daniel, thanks again. Look. Want a copy of the book? I mean, it's $20. Right? I mean, I recommend it. It's a great book. You know, I haven't had a chance to read it cover to cover yet, but I did read the foreword. Because I wrote the foreword. No, I mean, he asked me, and again, I have no problem. I was not at a J.R. Richards debut game because I was 17 days old. So I don't think I was there, but I wish I would have been there. Yeah,
I had one more comment on Don Wilson from Scipio, Scipio about Don Wilson on his temper. Jimmy Wynn talks about he roomed with Don Wilson. And that there was a dispute about a woman in the bar. That Jimmy Wynn said, I may have spoke to her. But Wilson was saying, you're hitting on my woman. And it turned out that Wilson had Jimmy Wynn hanging out the hotel room by his ankles. And Jimmy Wynn's going, go ahead, drop me, I dare you.
Good thing Don wasn't drunk, because he'd have dropped.
That's in Jimmy Wynn's book.
Oh my goodness.
But Sam, I gotta tell you something. All the time I was conversing back with you, I thought you were black. I was in somewhere, Alabama. You sound like a brother. So, questions?
And just in case you didn't know, Samuel is from Alabama.
Yeah.
And he drove here with you flew. Oh, sorry. Flew here
And drove from the airport.
and drove from the airport just for this presentation. Look at that. All right. We were at the Astros game on Saturday, selling books, and
I apologize.
and he was at the Space City game, the Space Cowboys game. What day were you there? Yesterday, Space Cowboys game. So anyway, again, if you haven't had a chance, plus he has some good memorabilia up here if you want to go check this out. So great job again. Thanks. Well, here's the thing. I was going to give away a copy of this to the trivia winner, but it's 8:30. So if you would like to ask a question from your book, the first person to get it right wins a signed copy of it.
What about today?
Don Wilson.
If you would like to ask the question from your book, well, how about we hold off for the trivia contest until next month? Okay, is that okay, Patrick? And if you have your index cards, hand them to me and I'll give them to Jimmy and we'll.
Oh,
So Samuel's going to ask a question and the winner gets the signed copy of this and we'll have our trivia contest next month. Okay. That includes you online. Whoever's the first one to answer, except for everybody's eligible except for Josh here.
Look at this trick and exciting. Okay, so
Here we go. You ready? Can everybody hear?
Yeah.
All right.
So one Astro after 1971 won an off-season award. Who and which award?
The Roberto
Doug Rader Golden Glove. So this is for Steve.
What color? Orange or blue?
Oh, orange. All right, 6, 7. Okay, so again, if you want copies of the book, they're up here. We'll meet again Thursday, October the 23rd. Thank you all. It was a great meeting tonight. Matthew will give a great presentation on 1968, MLK, the Astrodome. We will continue our celebration of the Astrodome. We have 2 more months this,
And in celebration of the Astrodome, I brought in a pair of seats from the actual Astrodome. That seats.
Matthew has brought in some Astrodome seats.
Yes, Chan.
Is that the door, Brian? Thank you all very much.